Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we have a story that frankly feels like a movie script. It's a story of unprecedented, almost overnight transformation. We're going to look at a place that went from dusty, quiet landscapes to glowing neon megacities in the blink of a historical eye.
What if I told you a tiny country went from poor desert villages to one of the richest nations on Earth in just a few decades? I mean, it sounds impossible, right? But the secret to this unimaginable wealth wasn't just hard work alone. It was actually something golden, hidden deep beneath the cracking, arid ground they walked on every single day.
Okay, let's dive right into part one, before the Golden Age and what life was like in the desert. Just think about the sheer contrast between these two eras. Back in the early 1900s, you had a very muted, dry landscape where most people barely survived. Men were literally free-diving for pearls in the ocean just to scrape by. Markets were empty, and money was incredibly scarce. Now, fast forward to today, you have a glowing, hyper-modern skyline. The streets are filled with luxury cars, high-end architecture, and just immense wealth. It's a completely different, bright reality. So how exactly do you get from that past to this present? That brings us to part two, the Great Oil Discovery, which was the ultimate turning point.
I was honestly shocked when I first looked at the historical records for this. Geologists were testing the ground, and suddenly, boom, they struck liquid gold. Oil fields erupted, export ships started carrying this precious resource all across the globe, and a sudden influx of cash just completely flooded the national treasury. The desert was quite literally sitting on $1 billion jackpot.
And when you put that kind of massive fortune to work, well, you can basically build an entire society from scratch. In the very first decade, modern hospitals just appear out of nowhere. By decade 2, state-of-the-art schools are being constructed. Jump to decade 3, and paved highways are stretching right across the endless desert. And finally, by the 4th decade, reliable electricity is reaching even the most remote villages. This infrastructure boom transformed the growing population way faster than anyone ever expected.
Moving on to part three, the hidden gas jackpot. And trust me, this was an even bigger discovery.
Because it turns out, Qatar possessed one of the largest natural gas reserves on the entire planet. They were basically holding a double lottery ticket. The discovery of this colossal underground gas field meant that global pipelines and massive liquid natural gas export ships were about to change the economic game entirely. I love this analogy. Oil might have started the engine, but natural gas strapped a rocket to it.
You can break this revenue explosion down into three distinct phases. First, you have the relatively flat pre-gas era. Then, there's a sudden uptick during the early pipeline exports. But then, wow. You hit the global gas boom, and revenue just goes absolutely vertical. That astronomical wealth is exactly what funded the overnight construction of ultra-luxury buildings, world-class modern airports, and those glowing city lights. Which leads us to part four, building a global power through a complete societal overhaul.
We are talking about a single generation witnessing a total transformation. Suddenly, there's this aggressive arrival of international investors. Luxury hotels are being built that rival anywhere else in the world. You've got modern, high-tech metro systems cutting directly through the sand, surrounded by massive shopping malls. And crucially, a huge influx of foreign workers and global flights suddenly connected this once isolated nation to the entire planet. The resulting GDP growth was staggering. The desert truly lit up.
Now, for part 5, the World Cup moment and stepping into the global spotlight. This was the exact moment Qatar became the absolute center of global attention. Just think about the logistics here. Massive football stadiums were emerging directly from the sand, looking like sci-fi megastructures rising up in record time. Then came the fans, crowding into newly built, gleaming airports from every corner of the earth. And of course, the media, broadcasting everything to millions of people watching feeds from across the globe, all pointed at a tiny nation that not too long ago relied on pearl diving. It was a massive logistical feat, and the whole world was finally paying attention.
So, what's the catch? Let's look at part 6. The price of rapid wealth and the new challenges it brings. Well, rapid overnight growth brings some pretty immense challenges. Today, in extreme reliance, we're talking a massive chunk of their economy is tied directly to oil and gas, leaving only a tiny sliver for renewable energy. And we really have to look impartially at the vulnerabilities this creates. They're facing the reality of newly crowded cities, very real environmental concerns in what is naturally a pretty harsh climate, and the constant looming vulnerability of global price fluctuations.
Because let's face it, when your entire economy is tied to commodities pulled straight from the ground, you're always going to be at the mercy of the global market.
But they are actively working to address this dependency. To navigate these economic hurdles, they're taking some strategic steps. Step 1, they're consulting global experts to actively figure out how to diversify their income. Step 2, they're designing futuristic, smart city concepts that prioritize efficiency and livability. And Step 3, they're launching new renewable energy projects to slowly but surely grow that tiny slice of the renewable energy pie. It requires a thoughtful transition toward a sustainable future because honestly, they know better than anyone that the gas just won't last forever.
Qatar's story proves that one discovery can change the destiny of an entire nation. But what happens next? That really is the ultimate question. A country built on a sudden, miraculous jackpot now has the monumental task of building a permanent, sustainable legacy. So as we wrap up, I really want you to think about what that future might look like. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.